Hey everyone, Kevin here, straight from the Oregon Trail. Today, I'm going to explain exactly why I walked away from an $825,000 deal in Santa Barbara, California. I'll explain at least 6 reasons why this was a deal to walk away from. And most of you know that even though I'm cautious with real estate right now, I'm still bullish on below market value deals. Because if you buy something substantially below market value, even if prices fall, you've got a cushion. And I'm looking for big cushions right now. So let's get into touring the house and sharing that experience with you and then talking about why I walked away from it. So I have to say, it was a little eerie because the day I started driving on over to go check out this house, it was raining, it wasn't sunny like it is now, and it just made everything feel a little bit more eerie. The streets are mostly empty, the commute was really easy. This would have ordinarily been a 45-minute commute, and most of y'all in my real estate investing course are like, Kevin, you have a 30-minute rule. Well, it is within 30 minutes now during the outbreak. Well, we'll talk more about that in a moment. But yeah, it was a much quicker drive. When I got there and I first pulled up, I'm like, oh, okay, like there's some people walking around. And as soon as I get out of my car, like immediately I start getting talked to. It doesn't help that my face is on my car because that usually attracts people to saying things like, oh, you selling this house? Hey, let me tell you about the people who lived here beforehand, which I have to say, usually that bothers me when I'm like the listing agent, because when I'm the listing agent, I'm like, dude, I don't want to know. I really don't want to hear the stories. But in this case, I'm like, well, if I'm gonna be the buyer, sure, tell me about it. I'll tell you, this guy, you can see in the image here, this guy was on it. He told me about how busy the street is, exactly where the school bus stops. He told me about how he thinks the street, one street over on Sunset's way better because you don't get all the through traffic and people are hauling butt down this street usually. He also told me that I gotta be careful going in there because oftentimes there are squatters in there. After the last tenants moved out, there were nothing but sort of a rotating door of squatters going in and out of that house. So definitely some interesting insights from this person. Although what I did like is that he told me this was by far, in his opinion, the worst on the block, which that meant I was in the right place. And I'll be upfront. I don't know as much about Santa Barbara as I do, Ventura County, but I still saw potential value in this deal, so that's what brought me out here. First thing I noticed as well is all the apartment buildings across the street, something I talk about looking at, it's potential rental competition here, and when it was time to go inside the property, I made sure to pop on my respirator. I wasn't actually expecting to see people inside, otherwise I would have probably put, some goggles on as well. So I just put the respirator on in case there had literally been a showing, because I don't know, there could have been a showing 3 minutes before me and somebody could have been coughing and sneezing all over the place. What do I know? All I know is I don't want to bring something back home to Lauren and then she gets sick because she's got asthma and severe allergies, and the last thing we need is her having a respiratory illness. We did both decide to sign up for life insurance, though. Because of that, my favorite is linked down below. It took us 5 minutes before watching Tiger King, which we are almost done watching Tiger King. And I'll tell you, when I first watched it, the first 10 minutes, I'm like, I don't want to watch this crap. Now I'm like, I can't stop watching this crap. Also, by the way, something else that I do when I go up to a property and I unlock the lockbox is I put on gloves, and then after I touch anything, I walk back to the car really quick and kind of use my elbow to pop open the door, and then I do some real good sanitizing to make sure my hands are as clean as possible all the time. But anyway, this is the house. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, slightly below 750 square foot property. It's also on a less than 4,000 square foot lot. So it's a super tiny house and super small lot, which in some respect, even though that seems horrible, is not bad because think about it. Kitchens and baths and landscaping are expensive. I don't have a lot to do here. I got 1 bathroom. I got a tiny kitchen. I got a little patch of grass in the front and back. Not that much work to do. You see the rain gutters are all leaking and destroyed. Not that many rain gutters to deal with on a 750 square foot house. Maybe you don't even need rain gutters. I know it happens to be raining in this video, so that's probably not the best example, but given that it only rains about 30 to 40 days a year in Santa Barbara, I don't know that I really need rain gutters. Although maybe you could just nail them back on. Anyway, exploring through the rest of the house actually isn't that bad, which is kind of frustrating because, you know, I look at a place like this and usually I want it to be stinky and dirty and smelly, and I want mildew and I want mold and I want to clean these things, and I want like something to solve. I want to go in there and have to fix something, because anytime there's a problem, it's profit. Problem equals profit. If I can go in there and fix something, great. If I can buy this place and rent it out instantly, I'm gonna have a whole lot more competition from people that don't wanna do anything. The people who don't wanna lift a finger are willing to pay more money. And that's bad for me. I want a discount. We talk about this in the live stream too. We regularly, at 9 a.m. every day the market's open, we go through renovations like this and we're like, well, I do this, I wouldn't do this. And oftentimes I catch myself saying, man, I wish this place were screwed up a little bit more. It's just not messed up enough. Come on. So upon closer inspection, I see that most of the electrical system is ungrounded. We see that the foundation has not been retrofitted yet. The plumbing's the original plumbing. The cabinetry is warping a little bit. And overall, the cosmetics, while they look okay, the expensive stuff isn't that great. The original windows, and this is an older property. This property was built in 1923. So this is kind of an example of, yeah, it's basically a fixer, but the cosmetics aren't like vomit bad, and like I'd want worse right now. And on top of that, the systems aren't that good. There's sort of like, nobody spent any money upgrading the place over time. So you got a few frustrations here. I mean, the thing's pretty much original. So why the heck was I even looking at this deal? Well, let me put it very simply to you. The place was listed for $589,000 on the MLS. It wasn't even like a secret or special deal. Listed for $589,000. And you've got comps in the neighborhood going for $825,000, $840,000, and then you've got some larger properties, which I can't really use, going anywhere from $875,000 to $1 million. But I'm not really even gonna count those. This is hands down fixed up an $825,000, and it probably pre-Rona pricing. So there's a little bit of a buffer you want to factor in there for Rona pricing, but we'll talk more about that in a second. The number one biggest complaint I have about this place is it's not Airbnb-able. I knew that going into it, so honestly, I'm like, Kevin, why am I even here? But if I was going to do a deal in Santa Barbara, I would love for it to be Airbnb-able. Mostly because I believe we are entering the biggest Airbnb reset that Airbnb has ever seen. People who have Airbnbs established and have 5-star accounts and have to sell their property because of the Rona, or they have to turn it into a long-term rental, those reviews go away. So my competition just got eradicated. So if I want to start an Airbnb business, this is the opportunity to pick on starting an Airbnb business. And we're gonna be talking a lot about that in the real estate investing course. I'm starting lectures on that already, as well as sort of a quick start guide. Since the course is pretty large, I'm gonna do a little quick start guide at the beginning to get y'all up and running. And see, this is why I work like 90 hours a week, because I just keep adding stuff. I can't stop. Now, Airbnb is usually not my primary motivation for going into a deal, but it is a backup strategy. See, if you go into a deal, you've got a few options. You could sell it for a profit, that's good. You could rent it for a profit, that's good. You could Airbnb it for a profit, that's good. See, all of these things give you choices and options. They're like exit strategies, worst case if you need them, right? There's so many options that you have in real estate. Well, in this case, backup option number one, gone. I don't like limited options. If I'm gonna own real estate, I want choice. I want the ability to decide what I'm going to do. I can't do option number one, so that sucks. And some people are like, oh, well, Kevin, well, wouldn't you want a larger lot too because you can redevelop it? Usually not. My preference, rather than spending $100,000 on redeveloping something or doing an add-on or something like that, I'd rather take that money and go buy another deal. There are certain times to develop though. I just don't believe now's that time. The number two problem is usually a rental break even in Southern California is somewhere around 28 to 30% down. That means if you put 28 to 30% down on a good deal, like a decent deal, it doesn't even have to be a great deal, you usually have a break-even pricing there where you could pay a property manager and have a hands-off deal, principal pay down, equity appreciation, all the good things that come, the tax benefits, all the good things that come with real estate. Usually around 28% down, you get your break even. Then you put more down, 35, 40%, you really start seeing good cash flow. That's what commercial real estate investors do anyway. In fact, a lot of commercial investors these days are having to put 50% down on commercial, but commercial's overpriced right now. So the usual target is 28% down and you break even on the numbers. And again, you put a little more down and there's your cash flow, vacancy reserve, CapEx, everything. This place though, because there are so many apartments around it and so many rentals, the actual rents on this are squeezed down, and you'd probably have to put somewhere between 40 to 42% down to cash flow, to break even on the thing, not even cash flow. And I look at those numbers and I'm like, no, look, I know California crazy, I know California nuts, but I'm okay with it. But that's pushing nuts. So number 2 option, renting it, gone. That leaves flipping it. So backup option number 1 is out of the window, Airbnb. Backup option number 2 is out of the window, renting it. So I'm looking at this idea of flipping it. Okay, so let's say it's an $825,000 house. Let's go worst case scenario and say I can get $799 for the thing. If I do a quick flip, the longer I hold on to this thing, the worse it would be. And flips are speculative, they're risky. I'm not a big fan of speculating. But let's just understand, if I went in at $799, the place doesn't need that much work. And then let's say I had to pay somewhere around $625 for it, worst case scenario. $799, $625 spread, put in less than 50 grand in the place. Honestly, 50 should be generous. The place is tiny. I'm gonna have some selling costs over here though, so let's go ahead and pull off about 7%. Well, that's $56,000, so that's not so fun. So I've got $56,000 to sell it. I've got $50,000 to fix it and my holding costs. I've got a purchase price of $625, which on a flip like this brings me at $799, assuming I didn't get multiple offers on it. $799 minus 56 minus 50 minus what I paid for it, and assuming acquisition costs and stuff are in this 50. This 50 is generous. That's gonna put me somewhere around $68,000 in profit, and I should be able to do that flip pretty quickly. That's a good deal. That's not bad. But I've got a few other problems with this. Going into this deal with these numbers, only after selling costs and everything, gives me a 10% buffer. So if the market shifts down 10%, all of the profit is gone. And I don't have post-Rona comps. All my comps are pre-Rona. So this 10% is a problem. This makes this bet more speculative. Now, if I was able to rent this or Airbnb this in the future, this is a little bit more appetizing because all of a sudden I would remove the $56,000 here. My holding costs and my fix-up costs would be less. In fact, to rent this, I'd probably only have to spend somewhere around $30,000. And now if I paid $625, I'd have much more of a buffer. With these numbers, I would have $144,000 of bonus equity in the deal to insulate me or cushion me in case of a fall, which $144,000 is much closer to 20%. It's not quite 20%, it's like 18%, but that's a lot better of a cushion than the flip cushion. But it doesn't make sense to rent it, and it doesn't make sense to Airbnb it. So with 10% on a flip, it's just not that great in an uncertain market. In fact, it's kind of risky because I don't want to spend all my time doing this for no profit. And so that's where we go back to the purchase price, $625 to get it. But wait a minute, it's listed for $589. Why would I have to pay $625 for it? Well, because there are 8 offers on it. Why are there 8 offers? Because it's not bad enough. Again, I mentioned this on live streams in the private investing course almost daily. I'm like, it's just not bad enough. I just finished a live stream where we were analyzing one where there was clearly like mold on the wall, and I'm like, this is great. This is perfect. Because it immediately shuts out, like instead of 8 buyers, we'd have like 2 buyers on it. It's so much less competitive when there's really nasty stuff. But you saw it, this place looks fine. It's not that bad. Because it's not bad enough, it's selling for this premium. See, if I was able to buy it for list price at $589, now all of a sudden I would have an additional cushion of what, 25 plus 11 of another $36,000. that gives me another buffer. That's like I'm going in with 100 grand potential profit on a flip with that as a cushion for a Rona fall. So not so ideal that I'm gonna have to overpay for it. So number 4 reason for this one not happening, it's just not bad enough. Reason number 5, I'm walking on this one, is not having enough local professionals in the area that can help me. See, in Ventura County, I got people all day long who can help me do deals. Paint, flooring, plumbing, electrical, everything. And a lot of them need work right now, and I wanna provide that because I wanna do deals, I wanna provide work. But if they have to drive to Santa Barbara, any kind of deal you could get on pricing goes out the window because now they're begrudgingly driving to Santa Barbara. And on top of that, they might just straight up say no, which leaves me in a lurch and having to find new contractors in Santa Barbara, which is bad. Now, I'm not saying you can't find contractors, but it's a lot harder to find contractors when you're 30 minutes away from the property. If this property were right next door or 3 minutes away, I could start anywhere. I could easily find contractors because I could be there every day because it's 3 minutes away. I don't want to drive to this place 30 minutes one way. It's an hour round trip just to be able to meet some new contractors. And that's also reason number 6. I'm way too comfortable sitting here drinking my coffee on quarantine lockdown to drive an hour round trip. I don't want to show it for rent to a bunch of different people because I'm trying to rent a place out during Rona time and I'm just too lazy to drive that far. I get mad that I have to get in the car and drive 7 minutes away, but 7 minutes away is very bearable. 30 minutes is a chore. And that's exactly why we have the 30-minute rule. That's exactly why this deal is a no deal. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Get your 2 free stocks with Webull when you deposit $100. Join me in the courses linked below. Get your free quote for life insurance. Takes you like 4 minutes on your phone. And folks, we'll see you later.